This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
And funny enough, actually, I meant to say when we were talking about, the whole thing with the B movie, or Bruce Willis doing B movies and like doing a handful of days and getting paid a stupid amount of money. I watched a video on YouTube where somebody like went through a load of them and did behind the scenes, and it was so bad to the point like there'd be scenes like where it'd have the back of his, like it was supposed to be the back of Bruce Willis's head in that film Reprisal with Frank Grillo from 2018, and they literally have a stunt double there playing basketball. He's literally only there for the close-up dialogue scenes and shit, and that's basically it.
Yeah, he got really animated last time. Like, he even said in an interview, it's a total Ponzi scheme. Because it doesn't make sense how this costs so much and looks this bad. So, and I think that's it. Like, they just chose the wrong era to even coexist in, because then what got even worse is then Grill was like, I'm not going to do any more of those ever again, but then became friends with another filmmaker who wanted to use him and Bruce, and so they're like, well, I guess we'll do more of these cheapies for Saban where we're in space fighting aliens or whatever. And
I don't want to talk about that film. That film is one of the shittest movies I've ever fucking seen ever.
Very ambitious, and yet who is this for? It's too long. There's nothing interesting going on. Everything's half finished. It's bad.
The production design is just absolutely questionable.
It's just like, this would be one thing if this was like a visual simulator, but it's not a movie. It's not even a music video. What is this?
It's crap, like pure crap.
It's crap, pure and simple.
All right, here you are. More actor tributes and just various parts of their career that have often been underreported, under-reviewed, because honestly, it's an infamous part of their career, and I'm the pop culture guy who likes to fill in the blanks and show, hey, there's some reasonable material here, here's some bad material here, and here's some amateur hour here. And in this case, I had a few people who really wanted to do this, but of course, delays after delays, and then I realized I still need to watch X amount of these movies. And so finally got it done and figured, hey, we'd put it during one of these themed weeks, either for actors or the video on demand, direct-to-video part of their career. So lo and behold, everybody's favorite, but unfortunately now retired actor Bruce Willis. And these are just interesting to watch because we thought, hey, he's just being a hothead like he usually is, and he's just doesn't care anymore. And then, lo and behold, it's not really the case. I'm going to be talking less about the dramas and comedies he's done, like what just happened, and more about when it truly, fully actually begins in 2011. And I've said before, and I'll say it again here on this one. So basically, he was one of many actors who was lampooned into this, tricked into this by the infamous Randall Emmett and his partner, George Furla. And so, yeah, here we were. He had worked with those producers on comeback movies that did well, like Hostage and 16 Blocks. And despite, doing his usual part of ensemble material like voiceovers and Over the Hedge, he's done some very underrated material in recent years, like Surrogates and what have you. But yeah, despite occasional hits here and there, it just was not enough. And after the fifth Die Hard, everyone was kind of just like, hey, dude, just do something less. So it's a shame, but I'm going to get to basically all of these and just, so I'm not going to be covering any of the Unbreakable movies. We covered those before and those were fun, but yeah, despite cameoing as himself in the Lego movie, the second one, as well as appearing on the Orville once again as a voice in a AutoZone commercial for Die Hard. It was just so funny how everyone just didn't know what to make of it. And then it was just sad when it's like, no, hey, hold up, something's wrong, something's off. So we're gonna get to that. So again, it starts in 2011 officially with setup. Furla and Emmett, are constantly putting, for a while they've been doing B movies with the likes of Christian Slater, Val Kilmer, Steven Seagal. They've gotten tired of those guys at that point. They still occasionally work with Kilmer, but he's often working with other people he likes, and in this case, it's 50 Cent, and he doesn't stop there either. He does his fair share of doing a lot of these movies, and despite the generic title setup, it pretty much flows like any other low budget B picture, often borrowing from the Tarantino handbook of foul-mouthed criminals, with one less, Reservoir Dogs style heists, organized for them. It was directed by Mike Gunther, who had been a stunt coordinator, including on the fourth Die Hard movie. And he's still working now. He's still doing plenty of stuff. He's done some other video on demand movies as well as second unit stuff for the likes of Star Trek Beyond, Bad Boys for Life, Transformers, Fast and Furious. And I had liked his Impact, our Tap Out produced movie, Beatdown. I thought that was really decent. That was another 2 a.m. movie. He had also done motion capture stunts himself, so he'd gone through the ranks, and this one I found surprisingly decent. It's not so much about the surprises as it is just seeing, again, the character build up to it. Some of it's unorganized, but it's a huge packed cast. Jake Carnes from The Shield is on here. This is one of the first ones I see Randy Couture on here, and he plays a dim-witted guy who basically gets high and commits suicide. So that's the only real complaint, is there wasn't enough build up to his random character. But I think a lot of people, I've seen people compare this to Guy Ritchie and other stuff, and even other overrated filmmakers I don't care for. I'm like, yeah, no, this is not trying to be like any of those at all. It's pretty much firmly in the Tarantino thing. And again, decent B movie despite the shady stuff behind the scenes, including the producers rewriting the script, locking the actors, and then reverting to the original draft to avoid paying the required Writers Guild fee. And I can understand why Ryan Phillippe hated working on this, because this was not the movie he signed up for. So this is during his career where he slowly ends up being, Mr. Indie guy. He still kind of is in some way, where he will appear in something that is, straight to Redbox or a festival or VOD, but he's gotten some better ones. So I'm sure he has an agent where he's like, if you're going to give me something, it still better be organized, it still better be solid. So this has Jenna Dewan, I think around the time she got engaged to Channing Tatum, and she's not a half bad actress. It's just, again, we didn't know what kind of stuff she was going to do, because she was another performer who not everybody knew how to market her at first. So she is now, again, given plenty of the other kinds of roles, and Ryan Phillippe is not half bad here. It's just, again, he hated working on it, so he's just voicing off. William Lee, who director Gunther has worked with before, gets to play, I think, a tattoo artist, and James Remar is also here doing his usual James Remar. So Bruce Willis is basically the main crime boss, just organizing this heist. And so I guess I was cool with this because, Philippi and 50 Cent are on the cover and Bruce, is in the background. So like, yeah, that's fine. He's organizing the diamond heist, but he's not the main star of this. So a lot of people didn't see this and they weren't offended by him being in it. But then different opinions from this point on. So let's go on to the next one. So yeah, that's 2011. And then throughout the rest of the 2010s, he just keeps popping them out. So then he's in Catch Point 44, which is a very solid, again, another Tarantino type kind of premise, dark comedy mixed with hostage thriller. And this was one that was annoying at first, but yeah, Aaron Harvey has done a lot of stuff. A lot of revenge movies and other unusual thrillers, including The Neighbor and Into the Ashes and short films. And I really dug this. Alan Ackerman was very unrecognizable. This also introduces a bunch of other people, including future Daredevil star Deborah Ann Wall. Nikki Reed was kind of whatever, but there were some other neat people in this, and even actors I normally don't care for were pretty good in this. But it all mainly starts with, a drug deal is going down at a diner at 3 a.m. and it reminds me of Albino Alligator, where it's a fun twist on the overdone Dog Day Afternoon, type hostage takeover thing. But it's also fun seeing Forrest Whitaker be a career criminal who, kills a sheriff. And I think it's, Brad Dourif he kills, or no, I could be misremembering that. But overall, yeah, he kills a cop and, poses as him. And it got very annoying seeing people say, oh, Tarantino knockoff. I'm like, Tarantino knocks off even himself. But it was even also cool seeing atypical chapters start and Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville being an unusual yet unrecognizable role, showing his talent. So yeah, I don't think Emmett and Furlow worked on this, but this is still when Bruce is doing, limited, weird festival stuff. And so yeah, that wraps up 2011. We get to 2012. He stars in this very unusual comedy that has a terrible poster, but is actually pretty decent. And it's by Stephen Frears, of all people. It co-stars Vince Vaughn, Rebecca Hall, of all people. Everybody Starts Somewhere, Catherine Zeta-Jones, even Corbin Burnson, and Wendell Pierce. So this is where Frank Grillo first meets Bruce in a brief role, and it's just an unusual gambling thriller while also introducing some other entertainment and showbiz stuff. It's a dialogue-based thriller, but it does get surprisingly amusing as it goes along. It's just a slow burn, and I think, again, because Bruce was getting in a habit of this, no one watched this. I certainly didn't until it was on cable TV one day. But hold on, there's more. Then he gets to The Cold Light of Day, and that is a dud. That is just plain bad. And it's fairly watchable, but it's one of those you don't buy anything that's on screen. And again, it's one of the typical video on demand movies. It's on in theaters the same day as like the internet or Redbox, something like that, and it starts the trend. And I've liked Scott Weiper's action movies in the past. He's another actor who also does various directing and producing, and he's made a career of it. The Condemned, The Big Ugly, A Better Way to Die, The Last Marshal. He's made a good career out of it. Some solid stuff. Even wrote and directed some of the Marine movies for a while. And the director for this, Mabruk El-Michi, He's a guy from Versailles, and he directed JCVD, and he's still doing some kung fu movies. But yeah, this was a dud, and I'm mainly going to blame just the main elephant in the room, and that is Henry Cavill. He's not believable. This is before his, Man of Steel, Superman takeover, but man, his accent, how he carried himself, nothing worked in it. And, Bruce just serves here as a cameo, and you can overall get the whole gist of it that he doesn't want to be here. He's doing the work, but the face reads differently. There's just too much silence in between. And there's some other French actors on here as well, Rushing Zim. And yeah, Sigourney Weaver's the main villain in this, but only appears at the end. And yeah, the whole thing just trickles down to just a watchable but very annoyingly bad, just piece of shit. And again, like, a lot of these guys have since gone on to work on better stuff, but man, here it was a nightmare fuel of bad ideas. And so yeah, 2012, not off to a good start. Then he does all these other appearances in all the other ensemble movies, and then he's back and with yet another one, Fire with Fire, and this is surprisingly pretty strong. Despite being direct-to-video for Warner Brothers, it ends up just being one of those that could have gone to theaters but didn't. But it's a stacked cast. It's a weird mixture of everything. Yeah. A firefighter on cover subject. So, if you like other just stuff like Backdraft or Simple Plan, you're going to probably like this one. But the main reason to watch this is, especially if you like Tom O'Connor's work on The Hitman's Bodyguard and The Courier. And he gets his teeth wet writing this particular one. And again, it has all the other regulars of these productions. Vincent D'Onofrio gets to play the main bad guy who's in prison, but sending his people out to basically, get rid of all the snitches. And Rosario Dawson gets to play the U.S. Marshal, who's basically, covering for Duhamel, the witness. But it gets pretty clever near the end, where they're actually, having to basically start a fire to, stop the fire, so to speak. And we even had Quentin Rampage Jackson and Vinnie Jones thrown in here as also other criminals. And, Bruce, again, he seemed, somewhat invested without the grumpy look that we later associate him with. So, yeah, decent star power, pretty taut, somewhat predictable, but still somewhat surprising at times. So, recommended. And then we go through the rest. Then, after his other sequels, Red 2, Die Hard 5, Sin City 2, he's back again with The Prince. And that one took me a while to watch. I had kept seeing the trailer, and then for a while I was like, I still haven't actually seen it. And this one commonly airs on HBO and Stars type channels. And this is mainly a good vehicle for Jason Patric. I'm hit and miss on Brian A. Miller, the director's work. And despite some screenwriters who've also done some bigger stuff for like The Rock, I never know what I'm going to get with Brian A. Miller. He's done a lot of cops and robbers movies, sometimes just for all the indie companies and 50 Cent, and sometimes for the Emmett guys. So he keeps working with those guys despite not always being given complete permission. But this is, despite not liking some of his other revenge films with Jason Patric gets a lot to do here as a special forces guy, just, basically taking on the crime underworld. Gia Mantegna, daughter of Joe, as good as the kidnapped daughter. And I like the build up, just showing how he was part of this crime underworld and Bruce did seem pretty intense, and John Cusack, despite some bad Photoshop on the poster, gets to be a fun guy who knows connections. And this actually got a 2015 Golden Reel Award for Best Sound Editing. I didn't mind the flashbacks back and forth for this. This main reason to watch is definitely Rain. That's right, the singer of the same name, made famous by Ninja Assassin. There's some other who's who. Jonathan Chernock and Don Harvey, Tyler John Olson appear here. Yeah, I did not mind this. Then we go into Vice for 2015, and not the Dick Cheney satire, not the Michael Madsen, Daryl Hannah, Tarantino inspired movie. No, Vice, very, very bad Blade Runner movie. This is one I have tried to find some light at the end of the tunnel. It's not very good. It's got themes like Westworld and just other post-Matrix type stuff. And despite them making a very appealing trailer, and again, it would come on Sci-Fi Channel once in a while, it's just rendered mute because there's some other unconvincing locations. And despite trying to make it bigger than it actually is, and Thomas Jane really good as the futuristic NARC taking on this evil corporation, it's just doesn't give you a reason to continue. And poor Amber Childers, she's another actress who's been through The Ringer and best known for a bunch of soap opera stuff and various other shows. And she apparently was the former wife of producer Randall Emmett, and she basically remarked after the fact that she got exploited by him various times, which is a shame because you never want to hear that. It's just terrible to hear. So once again, Jonathan Chernock is here, and he doesn't stop appearing in a lot of these. He's reasonable. I like him a lot, actually, and he's unaffected by this. But yeah, this ends up stacking in a lot of the other same B-movie and character actors. And once again, the Passmore and Fabrizio script is really junky in this. It's overbloated with ideas, and it's too busy trying to be loud and stylish instead of good. So that's the main issue. Then we go into Rock the Cash Bar, which is a very amusing Bill Murray comedy, and Bruce is there as a military guy. It's just a very amusing satire, and Zooey Deschanel is here. It's directed and produced by Barry Levinson. Kate Winslet gets to be here as basically a showgirl who wants a different chance at life. There's a bunch of other Middle Eastern guys you've seen everything. Danny McBride was there briefly. Taylor Kinney from Chicago Fire was really delightful. It's way better than it has any right to be. And I saw critics toasting this, saying this is the next Ishtar. Don't do a comedy in the Middle East. I'm like, guys, you did not see the movie. It is not awful like Ishtar. Trust me on that. I would know. So then we go to Extraction, another 2015 movie. Again, not the 2013, Crackle.com movie that was good. Not the overrated Chris Hemsworth movies. This decent action movie. And so this starts Bruce's collaboration with Steven C. Miller, not to be confused nor related to Brian A. Miller. And this is a very reasonable spy action movie. This could have easily been a Die Hard movie. So it gives an excuse for Expendables 3 star Kellen Lutz to get physical. And this is before Gina Carano went all crazy. This is a little before The Mandalorian, but she is very likable here. This features some other action guys we've seen in everything, and this does a good job of making it look like an actual polished Bourne Identity taken film. And again, starts the trend of being in theaters and then available for video rental the same day. Max Adams gets to write this, and he later Does some other stuff for this, as well as directing and writing shows like Terminal List, Heist with De Niro and Bautista. So very engaging, very well directed, and Steven C. Miller got to do some even blogging interviews and podcast appearances promoting this movie, and he noted that he really enjoyed working with all the cast instead of just the usual talking piece. So he has a very cool visual style. He's done the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake, as well as some other fun action and horror stuff that's often claustrophobic. Doesn't stop here. Then we go to Precious Cargo, and again, Max Adams decides to direct this, despite some very bizarre inserts. And this is where they get Mark Paul Gosselaar on to a lot of these. That's right, Zach Morris. He gets to do some fun stunts. It's, once again, a thief trying to get his life back together, is, get his ex-fiance out of these problematic criminal associates, and Daniel Bernhardt from John Wick and The Matrix gets to do his usual bad guy stuff. Some fun plot twists in this one, and very engaging. Claire Forlani has some unusual inserts, and I know everyone's often teased her about her acting, but I really think they just did her dirty with this one. They just gave her some very cheesy lines, and they shot it very fast, so it wasn't the best take, unfortunately. Cut to Marauders, a really solid movie. And this is basically a reverse Inside Man. Some people complain that the trailer gave too much of it away. I just had fun just going down the rabbit hole. It was just very enjoyable. Again, Emmett and Furla, they had gotten their feet wet, producing crooked cop movies like NARC and Street Kings. And I thought it was, while not on that level, still pretty slam bang awesome. They start incorporating Adrian Grenier into some of these, and again, much like on Entourage, he's not a good actor, but he was acceptable here. They start using some of the other same actors: Christopher Robb, Bowen, Texas Battle, yes, that's his name, Richie Chance, again, Tyler John Olson. Jonathan Shinnok is really good as one of the crooked cops who's part of the robbery. Lydia Hall is on here. She ends up playing a few various other roles in the Escape Plan sequels and some of the other Bruce Willis movies, so expect to hear her name again. And yeah, Chris Maloney shines. He gets to, once again, be a very fun, foul-mouthed action hero. Not, a different kind of smartass from, playing Stabler on SVU. But, so we have fun seeing Bruce be the bank manager who's hiding something from a bunch of different heists. It was just overall just fun seeing Bautista be the police partner and get to stretch himself. So this is where you definitely see some better productions for a while. And then it shit again. But this one was just solid because it just got to the point, gave you everything you wanted to see. And then we're in trouble. So then, after he goes to Once Upon a Time in Venice, which actually was pretty well liked by some other critics. But yeah, basically, Thomas Middleditch and Bruce Willis need their dog back. It's like a pet chihuahua or something. I can't remember. But Pam Jansen is in here. John Goodman has a funny scene as basically one of the other friends. Adrian Martinez and some of these other bit part actors you've seen and stuff. Adam Goldberg is in there. So it's a mixture of, again, a Tarantino type formula and John Wick. Jason Momoa gets to be the bad guy. It's a very wacky crime caper altogether. It's just fun. Wood Harris is also here, so my dude from The Wire. Stephanie Sigman is also here. You know her from SWAT and Miss Bala and Narcos. She was fun, but yeah, the main reason to see is Bruce is actually doing comedy here, which is sorely lacking in most of his resume. There's some shotgun action, and Jason Momoa fans definitely watch this one. But yeah, Mark Cullen was the director of this. Despite working on Cop Out, he basically wanted to just do something wacky with Bruce. He's had some very infamous TV shows developed in the past. Probably his best stuff is creating the show Heist and working a bit on Las Vegas, but yeah, hit and miss, but I really did enjoy it. My friend John did not like it at all, but I would highly recommend it. Then we're to First Kill, and we briefly had the direct video connoisseur guys, Brett and Ty, on here, and we all just dug this one. This is like the only good time you're going to see a Hayden Christensen performance that's acceptable. That's right, Mannequin Skywalker from Star Wars. He's usually insufferable, but this one was fun because, again, it was a simple plan take where Wall Street broker has to evade a crooked police chief. Lo and behold, he's a crooked cop who's part of this bank robbery, and he wants the stolen money. This movie just pulled a lot of punches. Bruce is really having a lot of fun being over the top without hammy, which is just wild. And some other B-movie guys like William DeMaio are on here, and being the various crooked deputies. But yeah, there's some decent tension, and I have no issues with this one at all. It really is theatrical. Like, you would have seen it had it been a bigger release, but it's not limited by, and this is where Steven C. Miller continues to just kind of impress, because he's not limited by his budgets.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
So then we get to acts of violence. Everyone's mixed on this one. Like, everyone agrees it's a solid, two brothers and one other friend, veteran turned vigilantes going after a trafficking ring. The way it's detailed and organized really stands out pretty well. Bruce Willis does get some action in this movie, but unfortunately, for the most part, he's often at a desk. So this starts his whole being like Cam Mitchell, where I'm going to be the angry police chief. But Cole Hosher is very solid. Shawn Ashmore also carries it. Yeah, Sophia Bush from Chicago PD and The Incredibles 2 gets a brief role as one of the detectives. Patrick Swayze as Barrett, and Rotimi from SWAT and Power, respectively, are also in here. So if you're just a fan of a lot of these actors, you're going to like this. Even Sean Brosnan, Pierce's son, and Mike Epps got brief roles. So pretty solid. It really is like blurring that line between let's do a Death Wish tribute while also doing a slam bang thing for, again, the modern day Bourne Identity Taken crowd who want slam bang movies. And Bruce, they had a lot of scenes despite being only on set for a day, and it doesn't look cheap despite it being a 15-day film shoot, which is wild. So kudos. Acts of violence. But yeah, John was one of those where he was like, I dug it a lot, but Bruce was terrible in this. So it is one of those where this is being the various diminishing returns where everyone's hit and miss on it. But at least we knew he was one of the stars as opposed to the main star. But then this is where the it takes a turn. Then we get to Reprisal, where Frank Grillo even goes on the record a year later, being in this one, saying, I think it's a Ponzi scheme. And he's right, most likely, because someone was funneling the money in a bizarre way. So again, we're back to cops and robbers. Ex-cop neighbor Bruce decides to bring down the assailant, and provide a counterattack. And Frank Grillo is the bank manager who also wants to stop these bank robbers from continually threatening his family. Jonathan Shinnok is the main bank robber. And so this was average. Very average. It is watchable, but again, Brian Miller is not as good as Steven C. Miller at creating suspense. He's good at making it watchable and making it look theatrical, but again, I need momentum in the plot to really stand out. So it's overall a watchable bust. Most people aren't going to give it the time of day. I'm forgiving because I'm a B movie guy, but even by B movie standards, it's very, very generic. So it was watchable. It had some interest. It did have some shotgun fights at the very end, but I was just like, this needs one more rewrite. And again, it's not so much that Bruce starts the sleepy-eyed look as it is just there's too much dead time, and that we don't want that in a movie like this. So then we get to Airstrike, which is a international release, and this is bad. Like, very bad CGI, very generic World War II storyline. At least Liam Neeson was in some good ones about the various Japanese occupations, as well as even Megan Fox at this point stars in a very good one about various other Iwo Jima type battles. And Bruce, no luck here. This is very, very bad. Definitely an East Asia write-off. Then he stars in the very excellent Motherless Brooklyn with Ed Norton, who loved working with him on the Wes Anderson Moonrise Kingdom movie. And this is a very taut movie. Bruce gets a very tragic role in this. Alec Baldwin is also in here, pre-scandal. Gugu Bathara is also here as the femme fatale. William Dafoe is here as the reporter, I believe. And but yeah, anyone who likes a Private Eye type movie is going to love this. Bobby Cannavale is also here. Norton is good because basically he gets to, play a guy who has Tourette syndrome, and you feel sorry for his, tragic backdrop as well as the city. And yeah, everybody gets some solid screen time, just very enriching characters. Other people who've done theater and TV, like various actors from The Wire in this. But yeah, very relevant. I totally agree with some of these other reviews. Just even though it's set in the 50s, they make it look just as modern as today. So that makes it a little more accessible for those who aren't familiar with that. And no character is exploited or poorly written. They're just very engaging. And Bruce, again, had a very tragic role in this. But again, then we're back to video on demand stuff. So then he does 10 Minutes Gone. And the trailer was better than the movie. But I was going to see it day one because, what do you know? They got Michael Chiklis. Oh, post Shield. And again, it's a typical, man who has to get over his memory loss while going after a bank heist. They made this look bigger than it was. The main letdown for me was I want to see what they're stealing instead of just brief jewelry and diamond flashes. So the main deal with this is the female lead in this sucks. Meadow Williams, and she is both and according to the trivia, she apparently had worked with Randall Emmett, and basically just decided, hey, I know you're channeling some insurance money, but collecting it under the table instead of applying it to the production, and I'll tell, the feds unless you give me a bigger role. So This is where basically they finally cut out director Brian A. Miller out of the loop and don't let him do any more of these movies. And I don't think he wanted to either because he wasn't allowed to do what he wanted. So then they start hiring some bigger names. And by bigger, I just mean people who are giving more to do. But I like it just fine. It is a fun movie. And I didn't see Bruce's stunt double a lot like I had in some of the other productions. So that was good. But yeah, they hire Matt Escondi, who's done some other stuff, 12 Feet Deep, Game of Assassins. He's been a go-to guy for Sony, Lifetime type movies. But yeah, he works with Bruce on the next few. He does Trauma Center, which could have easily been a Die Hard type movie because Bruce is actually running around. You can see him full frame, while holding a cell phone and a gun. Protecting a witness, decent B-movie actress, Nikki Whelan, who's done is basically a scream queen, but this is another kind of gauntlet type of movie where, protect the witness and send in some criminals to infiltrate a hospital. And unfortunately, Randall Emmett starts again paying people barely anything, sneaking in some of his other family members and girlfriends and fiancés at the time in inconsequential roles just to make them happy. Steve Gutenberg has a brief role as one of the main doctors, and he's good. But yeah, Bruce is solid as the lieutenant, and Tito Ortiz and Texas Battle get to be decent thugs. But yeah, I like this a lot. This was fun. And Nikki Whelan has gone on to do some other fun monster movies. But yeah, then Matt Escondri does the next two, and he does the watchable, home invasion movie that has some horror undercurrent, Survive the Night, and then he does Hard Kill, which is basically another Expendables commando movies. Again, he makes good use of the one location thing and making it look bigger than it actually is by having people go outside once in a while. So those are very reasonable, but at this point, critics are not bothering with it. They're going straight to the internet. Survive the Night did get some decent reviews on some horror sites, and Hard Kill is literally just the decent junk food you want. Yeah, it's a total just billionaire tech hires mercenaries to protect his technology, and a terrorist group kidnaps his daughter to get it. I've heard bad things about Jesse Maltkoff in the past, and they somehow get him to behave in some of these movies, so I don't know what he did, but yeah, I didn't mind Lala Kent in here, despite her not being an actress, but hey, Iskandari, I think, is a decent director just because he knows when to use his different characters instead of, you tell him the rules and he doesn't know how to break it. But then we get into two other actor and filmmakers, Corey Large, Edward Drake, and John Suits, and they start doing some B sci-fi movies that aren't very good. They think of all of your favorite video game cinematics mixed in with cheap sets. Some of them are a labor of love, but they just don't have any sense of timing, so they go on way too long. However, you do get a decent one here with Breach, and this is one where Bruce is really, again, this is where he was going, and this has a decent cast. His best friend, Johnny Messner, is also in this. Rachel Nichols from Continuum is also on here. Some other B-movie guys, like Timothy V. Murphy and Colin Mulvey are also in this. So the main reason to watch this is seeing Thomas Jane, return once again, but this time he's playing an admiral, and it's another alien predator in space type movie. And it seemed like they just fed the line to Bruce, but we thought he was just hamming it up, being cheesy. And so this is where it's just unfortunate because it's kind of a self-aware cheesy movie, but it's also unintentionally campy in other parts that's not meant to be. So yeah, only watch it if you see it on Sci-Fi Channel, Cosmic Sin and Breach, both filmed back to back. But Cosmic Sin was definitely the worser one because Frank Grillo just had some weird, just close-ups, like he didn't know where he was, and I'm sure he did, but the way it was filming, it just was very bizarre. You're going to be let down because it's just not organized. I had fun with some of the cinematics, but it's not a complete proper movie. It should have been cut way down, and it's just too full of itself and confusing. And then we get to Midnight in the Switchgrass, and this is the one where finally Bruce, needs to have his lines, read to him. It's a very uninteresting serial killer movie set in, again, they go from Florida, but then they have some Louisiana locations, and you just don't understand the whole thing. This is basically where Megan Fox met Machine Gun Kelly. This is the main reason people know this, but the whole trafficking undercurrent and sneaking in one of Sylvester Stallone's daughters just doesn't do it any favors. Lucas Hosh, that's right, the kid from Witness, is the main serial killer. His scenes drag. They just feel like afterthoughts. And Emil Hirsch is basically the main life to this as the main police officer helping the feds. And despite, again, more of the same kind of people who've been in all these productions, Olsen, Sven Twinnell, Nick Kostoff, and Sergio Rizzuto, and Jackie Cruz. Again, it's what more watchable than it has any right to be, but Randall Emmett is just not a director. He's a producer. And yeah, this is where he started being a dick to Bruce, which is a shame because this deserved to be a better and way more exciting serial killer movie. But yeah, Machine Gun Kelly is actually very reasonable as the drug dealer who's basically in a crazy, bizarre, abusive relationship, ? Megan Fox, and it's oversaturated and confusing and not that great. And they did a good job of hiding Bruce's, condition, so we didn't know. There's often scenes where he's talking, but you don't see him on screen. But unfortunately, that also undermines his position in this. He just has very average, predictable dialogue. And again, I'm saying this as an indie guy, B-movie guy who likes me plenty of stuff, but I'm just acknowledging the elephant in the room. So then let's just wrap it up. Let's just speed on right for the last few ones. Then he goes to Out of Death, which is another protect a witness type movie. He's playing an off-duty ranger. It's got a lot of over-the-top Tarantino type transitions. This is where you can find a lot of these movies on AMC Plus, Hulu, Tubi, and he just starts turning them out. So I found that one watchable. Then the very, very trashy bad Survive the Game, which looks like another typical, like this is where the business plan doesn't make sense. Like this came to Redbox the same day. It's in a few theaters in LA, and Bruce's stunt double is so apparent. And he starts appearing with disgruntled TV star Chad Michael Murray. And yeah, it's not very good. It just, the way it's filmed is, very inconsistent. And James Cullen Brozak and Ross Peacock just show that they're unable to do much of anything. And don't let any of these film festival awards distract you otherwise. No one thought these were good movies, and I'm not kidding. There's some film festival awards for this, and it's like, yeah, no, this movie sucked. This was the kind of movie I'd expect someone who's never good, like Steven Seagal, to do, or someone who does anything, like Eric Roberts, to appear in. But it's just a very overdone, and unless you just want a bad movie night, you're not going to get anything out of it. So, Survive the Game 2021, avoid. Then he goes into Apex, which is a very junky Matrix. Once again, hunter be hunted, kind of surviving the game, hard target movie. And Neil McDonald's here, and he doesn't look like he wants to be here. Then we go to Deadlock, and it's another Die Hard type knockoff, but it's set on basically like an oil tanker. And Patrick Muldoon from Starship Troopers. My bad, it's a power plant, but yeah, Bruce doesn't have anything to do. And again, Jared Kahn has done cheap movies before, but it looks like once you tell him what to do, he just doesn't have any idea how to pull it off, despite being from the asylum and doing some decent shark and zombie B movies. But that's okay. Then he teams up again with Bruce for Vendetta, which is a very solid B action movie with the star of Vikings. I'm not a fan of Theo Rossi from Sons of Anarchy, but he's fortunately very less on screen. But the main reason to watch is Mike Tyson is one of the criminals who helps out the vigilantes, and Thomas Janes as the private eye, helping them. But yeah, in between there, Bruce struggles. He does 2 of these movies, Fortress. He was barely in the first one, and then he was in more of the sequel to Sniper's Eye. But this is where, again, Saban Films starts producing some of these. And Emmett just churns out more of them before you can even just, keep up with it. And you're like, what? Why should I even care? I like Bruce, but why is he in these? And they're just too junky to appreciate on any scale. And unfortunately, Fortress is a bust because, again, it's once again people being hunted, Hunger Games type style, but with just diminishing returns. I quite enjoyed American Siege, but again, Bruce isn't the main star of that, but it's a better project for Large and Drake to work on because basically it's ex-NYPD officer turned sheriff being in a Georgia town and dealing with both thieves and basically brotherhood type gangs. But there were some decent actors playing the hostage takers and hostages in this. It's just, again, by that point, everyone saw the covers and were like, nope, that's bad Photoshop. We're not watching it. And I understand, but I'm just letting you know, it is better than it has any right to be. Bruce is clearly having his lines fed when I look at it now, but yeah, overall, he was actually doing his job. And I would have never known had this, again, this just shows you how good people are behind the scenes at covering up mayhem when it's happening and maintaining a decent movie. But of all the latter ones, I'm going to recommend American Siege. I can't recommend most of these other ones from this point on. So then Gasoline Alley, that was one where I just tapped out instantly. I'm like, Luke Wilson as a Fed? Yeah, I don't buy that. It just is Devon Sawa starts being asked to be in some of these, despite being, that's right, the guy from Nikita and Final Destination. But yeah, Edward Drake did not do a good job with this one. This is where it's just a very densely annoying movie where the more details they add, the more you become disinterested. Yeah, no one has much of anything to do. Fast forward for this one. Then you go to A Day to Die, which gets way more interesting in the second half, but they should have just not put Bruce in this. And Wes Miller seems like a decent director, but he makes this production way too cheap looking. He's done some other decent B movies like River Runs Red and Atone, but this one had way too much overexposed lighting just to create a mood. But so this is a way better one, but it's a junky movie. It's more, I just don't buy Kevin Dillon as a special forces guy. That's the main thing that made it annoying for me. But in the second half of this becomes a watchable B movie where basically it's just all ex-Marine guys and gangsters going against crooked cops using their military ops to get out of this. Frank Grillo carries it, but there's plenty of times where you see, he knows what kind of production he's in, so he's giving less effort. I generally don't like Gianni Capaldi in the other productions he's been in, often with Casper Van Dien, but he was just whatever here. But once again, they sneak in Bruce's other pal, Johnny Messner. The main reason to watch this is if you're a fan of Leon from Cliffhanger, Oz fame. He actually had some reasonable stuff to do. So yeah, Above the Rim fans, Temptation fans, Cool Running fans, watch this if you like him. But yeah, so this is where it becomes like it or hate it, Day to Die. Bruce does, get to be evil. And that's the main reason everyone watched it. But the main deal is just seeing them film a bank robbery on a small budget while just making stuff explode. So, yeah, after that, we get to the to-be original movie corrective measures, and Bruce is literally just one scene cameo. And while Michael Rooker plays basically a warden, it's kind of like The Condemned, just set my prisoners out and try and kill them. And it never takes off, despite being watchable and a moody soundtrack. It's just too unorganized with its fun sounding premise. And then we get to White Elephant, and this is another one. I love Jesse V. Johnson. He's best known, much like Isaac Florentine, for working with his Scott Adkins and all those other video on demand action guys, and he's had some fun movies, but this is basically, despite getting some decent reviews from some other movie sites, and Bruce again has seen better days. There is some action with Ogo Kurlenko, and we get another evil John Malkovich and Michael Rooker appearance. Basically, these guys are smuggling in animals, doing mobster stuff. Again, it looks theatrical. It did get played in theaters, and unfortunately, it just doesn't maintain any interest just because the budget was a little too restricted here, and I can see why these guys signed on for it, but it just didn't deliver. And then we go to Wrong Place, which is an average movie. This one is just too junky. Once again, Bruce has to stop a witness from getting targeted. I like Ashley Greene and all, but yeah, Mike Burns and Bill Lawrence, no relation, come up with a very generic premise. And then we go to Paradise City, where John Travolta is reunited with Chuck Russell. He did a decent revenge movie with him previously, but again, there's another guy who's too busy doing just junky movies. So despite having Corey Large and Edward Drake do the premise and Chuck Russell co-write it and direct it, this is one where it is just very just uneven. Steven Dorff his premise is more interesting as the basically gambler who's somewhat loosely related, and Noah G from Training Day appears here. Blake Jenner of all people is also here, but this has some of the worst CGI you'll ever see. Again, it just reeks of too many reshoots and people shooting stuff out of order so shots don't match. And yeah, this is one, it's watchable for that first half, and then near the end, like the second half, it's just, you wonder, they also give too much away. You know that Bruce is going to end up getting shot by bad guy John Travolta, but you don't know how or why or where or why you should care. So it's watchable for that first half, and then that second half, it's basically a bad episode of Hawaii Five-0. It's these Hawaiian drug lords. And despite giving Bruce a giant machine gun, filming it decent in some areas and being watchable, it's a junky movie that ends up being very annoying because that ending just wrecks it. Just people are getting shot at while giving out generic dialogue like, get down, and yeah, Steven Dorff could have made this movie even better. I love the dude, and again, this played in some theaters while also being available to rent, but man, that last half, just amateur hour. Like, shots don't line up and only cause more confusion because they don't match previous shots. The technical stuff could have easily made this generic thing even better, and unfortunately it just saturated it with more steam and pile of crap. And then we get to Assassin, and that is officially his final movie. This starts off okay and then quickly descends into amateur hour, and despite having some Nigerian filmmakers work on this, Namzamo Batha, has done a lot of stuff. She's been in Coming to America 2, other stuff. And Dominic Purcell, who's another direct-to-video guy. Again, love the dude from Prison Break. And unfortunately, he seems to only get just bottom-of-the-barrel bad direct-to-video garbage. And this is one where it could have easily been a Westworld or Matrix, William Gibson type movie. And it is watchable, but it quickly becomes tiresome because, again, it's so busy trying to get it done. There's no time to actually get interested in the premise. It's too workmanlike. I totally skipped over unintentionally Wire Room, but yeah, this was one that was, again, pretty average. I don't buy Kevin Dillon as a federal agent. It was watchable, and I like Matt Iskandari, but his other better projects. But this is one where you pretty much remember the last half, where it just becomes a Speed or Die Hard type movie, where they're wiretapping a room and trying to steal this technology, and it's just a funny, unconvincing seeing Bruce Willis get blown up while he shotgun blasts a bunch of other military guys. And again, it's a good bad movie night, but it's also, I can see why people were just like, I have no patience for this anymore. It's got to stop. And I feel more bad though for a lot of these movies, because even though they're on a lot of the Lionsgate and Redbox streaming places, it's not good business making. And I feel more sad for all the supporting actors who have gone on to do better stuff, but they're trying to get their feet wet. They're trying to get someone on their demo reel, and this was the movie that was in town. It just shows you how many people weren't keeping up with a lot of the stuff that was happening, or they thought, oh, Bruce is getting old, but he's fine. And it's like, well, not exactly. So that ends it for us for now. And thanks for tagging along and listening to me sum up these disappointing times. But so again, as you've heard me sum up, you could have fun with some of these and other ones, not so much. You could probably just avoid for now. Or you could just take my word for it. That works too.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.